This is AM Agenda. Thank you for your company. With me this morning, Liberal MP Josh Frydenberg and Labor MP Ed Husic. Gentlemen, there's talk today that the banks might act outside of the RBA official movements. We saw the RBA keep the cash rate where it is yesterday. Josh, do you think that they've got a defensible argument if, say, for example, the ANZ does lift their rates by 10 basis points or something of that magnitude?
Look, I think it'd be unfortunate if they did lift their interest rates as a mortgage holder myself, like most Australians. But I think the point here with the interest rates is that under our government, they were lower than they are under the Rudd and Gillard governments. Now, the cash rate is 4.25%, but it's actually the mortgage rate. And the average mortgage rate under this government, what people pay on their home loans, is 7.5%, and that's pretty high. And unfortunately, that's going to hurt investment in the community.
Do you think that the banks will act outside of the RBA? Did the RBA's decision surprise you yesterday to keep the rates where they are?
Well, me personally, yeah, I was surprised that they kept them at the rate that they did, because I think that there's certainly room for a further lowering to give a nudge along to economic activity, and also I think in terms of confidence in the face of what's happening in Europe. And I do agree with Josh in that I'd be very concerned if banks went above and beyond what we had yesterday. But where we disagree is, again, facts don't lie. 8.55% is what we inherited. You know, they're down to 7.3. So if you're an Australian household, Australian household with a $300,000 mortgage, you're paying $3,000 less. That is a big deal. And so we've been able to make some
headway.
So
you're talking about the end point of the Howard government. Josh is talking about the average across the Howard government was lower than what it is, has been under the Labor government.
And where did we get at the end point? It wasn't just one lift. There were a series of lifts. And why was that? Because a lot of the things the Reserve Bank had been telling the Howard government to do in terms of tackling capacity constraints, either skill shortages, either infrastructure issues, they were dragging the chain on.
That's why we created 2 million new jobs, and the lowest unemployment and inflation in 25 years.
So your argument,
and real wages went up more than 20%. That's why that all happens on our watch.
That's right. There was job growth, but the thing was, industry was screaming for skills. What was your idea? Cut money out of the TAFE sector and duplicate the TAFE sector through the ATC
Let's not go over
system.
too much history now. Let's talk a bit more current events. And yesterday, the Liberal Party...
Don't talk history. He brought it up first.
Okay, well, let's move it on.
I love talking history when it comes to your government.
You can reconvene over a coffee after the show. Let's keep it interesting for the viewers, though. And I know everyone loves talking about Labor leadership. Yesterday, the Liberal Party wanted to kick that on a bit, asking Mr Rudd a question. It's going to be a bit of a niggle until Mr Rudd decides that he will rule this out. Why doesn't he?
So he's not allowed to be asked questions in question time. I mean, he got asked by his opposition counterpart an important question, and he answered the question. I mean, I just figure that a lot of the speculation is frenzied and it's being overblown. The fact of the matter is, as we've said, we're just getting on with the business, and as you kicked off at the start of the show, in terms of the economy, we've got a big agenda that we've got to get through this year, but in particular, making sure the economy stays strong in the face of some global uncertainty.
Does the Nielsen poll calm things down a bit, a better result in that poll this week?
It might
gives people confidence?
You know, the section that needs a calming down, there are large elements of the media that want to be able to kick this on, and as we've just been saying, we had a very productive meeting on the weekend in terms of going through the achievements of the last year and looking ahead to this year.
And look, there were more caucus members at the Governor-General's dinner hosted for parliamentarians than there were at your own caucus party. More than 20.
Where were you?
More than 20 of your members were not there. Now look, Ed knows a lot about the Labor leadership.
Thank you for being an authority on those.
Kieran, Ed knows a lot about the Labor leadership because he's one of the ones doing the numbers for Kevin Rudd.
There you go.
Well, isn't that right?
No, it's not.
Okay, well now we've heard it. The truth is, this is a Hobbesian choice between two failed leaders. I mean, Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard do not have proud leaders as Prime Ministers of Australia.
No murmurings.
And what the Australian people want is for a government to focus on job creation on productivity, on skills, and getting us back into surplus. That's what they want. Unfortunately,
Done.
Oh, surplus, yeah, right. Unfortunately,
You can't even name when you're going to do your surplus.
Unfortunately, they are focused completely on internal matters. Now, we've had members from Tasmania like Dick Adams speak up and say the government's not getting through its message. You've had Graham Perrott from Queensland come and say that he's going to resign from Parliament if Kevin Rudd comes back. You've got Simon Crean, a cabinet member, saying Kevin Rudd should play by the team rules, and you've got Nicola Roxon, the Attorney General, saying Kevin Rudd should rule out another run for the leadership. Yesterday, outside church, Kevin Rudd was asked directly, will you rule out a leadership bid? He said no. So this is just game on, and it's a question of time until you get your numbers to where they need to be.
I mean, give me a break. How many times, like, you get asked these
You don't deserve
questions?
one.
50 million. Come on, where's the charity?
Well, I'm worried about what's good
You get
for
asked 50
Australia.
million times the same question. 50 million times the same question. You only have to change tone or the way you looked at the person who asked the question or the way that you answered, and instantly it becomes a big deal.
Can I
Just
just
like it is
say,
here.
Kieran, can I just say
They're
this?
Very quickly.
Can I just say,
Our two key economic people can't even agree when they're going to have a surplus, and we've got to listen to this stuff.
Kieran, can I just say there is a lot of support for the Liberal for Julia Gillard out there. You know where? Among Liberal supporters.
Okay,
That's where it is.
Can we-
I find a lot of support among my Liberal colleagues for Julia
I want to
Gillard.
move. We've only got a minute
Fine.
left.
Come on.
We've only got a minute left. I do want to ask you, this is a very serious point to finish the program on. It's the awful events in Syria at the moment. The Foreign Minister has condemned the ongoing massacre, a barbaric massacre as he describes it, calling for the Syrian president to step down. Josh, there's no sign of that happening, is there? The Russian Foreign Minister was there overnight, but this intransigence from the international community is just unacceptable.
Well, look, there's a brutal stalemate taking place now within Syria, and you're right to point to more than 5,000 people having lost their lives. The international community does want to speak with a single voice, except that the Russians and the Chinese have vetoed this resolution. They should. That is a really bad
And they have to
decision,
explain it.
and they have to explain that.
Just, yeah, okay,
and
yeah,
I think
quickly.
you know.
No, I agree.
It's
I mean,
important.
I'm completely with you on that. I think China and Russia, as Minister Rudd explained or said last night, they really do need to explain what they will do to stop the violence that's going on. And as Josh said, 5,000 people losing their lives, completely
And more every
unacceptable.
day.
And President Assad simply does need to step down. It is unbelievable that a leader of a country could stand like that and see 5,000 of his own people
We agree.
perish.
Okay, Ed Cusick, Josh Frydenberg, gentlemen, thanks. It's good to see you both. And
Thanks.
that's all for AM Agenda. Thank you for your company.